The goal of video 2 is to familiarize the operator with setting parameters, testing alarms, and operation of the MVM. This is the setup screen, and I'll point out a few features on it. On the top flashing banner is written "Patient not ventilated." This is a safety feature to ensure that the patient is not connected at this time. Down the right side, we have the settings and the alarm settings for each one. The top one is the battery percent, that's left. The second row is the power source, AC at the moment, and then the same indicators of the parameters that we saw in the alarm settings. So measured rate, maximum inspiratory pressure, Peep, tidal volumes, inspiratory and expiratory, minute volume, and FiO2. On the bottom, we see mode PCV status off. That means that the mode that is up is pressure control ventilation, but at this moment, the status is it is off. Down here, we can see the settings that have been set for pressure control. So we have the alarms down here, we have the settings here, and I will just show you that there are 3 graphics that are shown here. The top one is pressure over time, the middle one is volume over time, and the third one is flow over time, and we'll see those, what they look like once we start ventilating our patient. So by pressing this button here, menu, we can see the submenus. We have settings, special procedures, which are inspiratory and expiratory pause. So the special procedures for inspiratory pause, expiratory pause to get a plateau pressure, and expiratory pause to get an auto peep measurement. Very simply, during inspiration, you push this button and hold it. It will last for maximum 40 seconds, of which it will shut down. And from here, you can get a plateau pressure. And you can even freeze it. Scroll back, scroll forward, and you can see your plateau pressure there. For the expiratory pause, simply push the button during exhalation. Exhalation is interrupted, and if there is some auto peep, it will be seen, can be seen here. In this case, there is none. We've got set pressure support ventilation, which would mean that we would change that mode from pressure control to pressure support. And if we chose not to, we can start pressure control ventilation. So we'll do each of these, starting with settings. Settings, self-explanatory. We go back to the settings page. We have under settings, mode settings, alarm settings, and 2 other options is view the logs, alarm logs, setting logs, and we can also lock the screen if we wish to do so. We're going to look at the mode settings. Back to a familiar screen. As we saw previously in the setup, we can run through that one more time. Again, it would be a matter of choosing what we want. I'm going to just check all the defaults at this point just to illustrate again. And I'm going to apply those settings. So that's making sure that when I start pressure control ventilation, it will be in the settings that I want. So we talked about setting the parameters that we want. In this case, we're in pressure control. We've set all the parameters. These are the control panel parameters or settings. There are 2 other settings that must be done as well, and we must not forget those. One of them is to set the Peep. The Peep is set externally, so the Peep needs to be adjusted with this external Peep valve. It's written on their increments of 5. I'm going to set this at 5, and that will provide a Peep of 5. In order to confirm that I am getting a PEEP of 5, we would need to, once the patient would be attached, just to read the PEEP display. And it should be approximately the same as this. If at any time I need to change the PEEP level, I again have to adjust this externally. The second thing that I need to set is the FiO2, or the oxygen, and it's the same thing. I must make sure that what I've set on the blender is the same thing that I've set on the machine, and in order to do that, I have to go back into the alarm settings, go to FiO2, and if I'm setting, for example, 40% on my blender, this I've got to set to 40%, and then confirm. It's the only way the machine is going to be able to use the alarms that it set, 3% above, 3% below. So those are the external settings that need to be done. I'm just going to put this back to 21. We need to test the alarms. To do these tests, we need to set specific parameters. There's preliminary steps that need to be done. So back again, I'm going to put very specific settings for this. And those settings are the mode, pressure control, it's done. The expiratory ratio is going to be 1 to 3. So I'm going to pick this. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to pick an inspiratory pressure of 15. So it's fine. The inspiratory trigger is not necessary. It's there. It's not necessary. So I'm going to apply those. I'm going to confirm those yes. And now it's going to be important that we start ventilation. So we've put the parameters on the pressure control ventilation mode. We've attached a test lung. Use a proper test lung for this test. It will mimic the patient's lungs. At this point now, I'm going to start PCV. I'm going to confirm that I'm starting, and ventilation will begin. The first test is the obstruction test. By that, I'm going to remove the test lung and block the tubing. I'm going to use a cap for that purpose, and we should get an obstruction alarm. So I'm going to remove it. I'm going to cap it, and we should get an obstruction alarm. On the top bar, whenever there's an alarm, you're going to have a code, and that code can be expanded to show you what there is. Certainly, number 1 is obstruction in patient circuit. That worked. The yellow alarms indicate a medium priority. Red alarms indicate a high priority. I'm going to take this off. Resume ventilation with my test lung. And reset alarm 1. When I reset, number 1 disappears. I still have a few more alarms. The other way to silence alarms is to press it, and each one is silenced if the condition is finished. The high pressure alarm test is done to ensure that at the high pressure alarm limit, the machine will cycle off, terminate the breath at that point, and that there is in fact an alarm. So to do that, the first thing that one must do is go into the alarm section, go to the pressure, and increase the high pressure to 50. Apply that. Now I'm going to disconnect the lung and block. So we have an alarm. To test for the low inspiratory volume alarm and the low PEEP alarm, simply disconnect the test lung. Our low expired tidal volume is now triggered. Our low expired tidal volume is triggered. The low PEEP alarm is triggered. I'm going to reconnect, and I'm going to reset all of these. This is the gas failure alarm, and simply disconnect the source. In this case, I've disconnected the air. Ensure that you're above 21%. we have a gas blender alarm, and we have our alarm for the gas failure. Put this back to 21 if that's where you were. It's already expanded. I'm now going to reset that alarm. So that is the gas failure alarm test. The next alarm that we can do is the high inspired tidal volume and low inspired tidal volume. Same procedure. Settings, alarms, access, tidal volume inspired. Set your maximum lower than what it's reading, which is 308. So it's going to be lower than that. Apply that. We'll get an alarm. Put your alarm back to where you want it to be. Apply that. We can go back and we can reset that. Now to do the low inspired tidal volume alarm. Settings, alarms, inspired tidal volume. This time set the minute volume higher than the data that we're obtaining from the tidal volume, which is 309. Apply those and the alarm will ring. Resume the alarm settings that you had previously. Apply those. Go back to the main screen and just reset that alarm. That is done. The high expired tidal volume alarm can be checked this way. Settings, alarm settings, access the tidal volume expired or VT expired, and set the high alarm lower than what is being read. Right now I'm reading 318, so I'm going to set it lower than that. I'm going to apply it and the alarm will ring. So that's fine. I resume to where it was before and I apply that. I'll go back and I should be able to turn that one into black. At the same time, I can go back now and do the low expired tidal volume. Same thing. Settings, alarm settings, access the expired tidal volume. Now set the low higher than what we're reading. So it would be higher than, right now it's 258. So higher than that. Apply. It's ringing. And now I'm going to turn it back. Apply. And I can reset this alarm. So that's the low and high expired tidal volume alarm tested. To test the high minute volume alarm, access alarm settings and look at the minute volume that's being delivered. Right now it's 3.6. To test for the high minute volume alarm, bring the high minute volume limit below 3.6. Apply and the alarm rings. Put it back to where you want it to be. Apply. Low minute volume is tested this way. Simply go to the alarm settings, access the minute volume, note the minute volume delivered, which is 3.6 right now, and make sure that the low minute alarm is set higher than that. And we immediately have an alarm. Put it back to where you want it. Select it. We can go back and reset that alarm. Another very important alarm to check is the apnea alarm. In pressure support ventilation, which is a spontaneous mode, the patient is expected to trigger or initiate all breaths. If in that mode he stops triggering, the machine will take over and resume pressure control ventilation. In order to do that, we've got to switch the mode back into pressure support. So mode settings, we're going to switch the tab to pressure support. All of our parameters are here. I need to check them all, review them all again. This time I'm just going to put the default settings in. I'm going to apply. it's going to ask me, do you confirm all the values for pressure support? Yes, I do. I'm going to start pressure support, and I should be in pressure support right now, and it will stop ventilating. Within the time interval that I've set, it should start back into pressure control ventilation. At this moment, we're in apnea. Now we can see that pressure control ventilation has resumed. The patient is being ventilated, and the message says, attention, a ventilator has switched from pressure support to pressure control. Do I confirm that? Yes. I'm going to confirm we're now in pressure control ventilation. Again, any alarm that's come up needs to be reset. So we went from pressure support, we triggered the apnea alarm, and we said that it does work. In fact, it starts ventilating in pressure control. Another very important alarm to check is the oxygen. To test for the oxygen, set the blender significantly higher than 21%. You could silence the alarm if you didn't want to listen to it, or you will have an FiO2 alarm ringing. At 21%, the alarm was preset 3 above, 3 below, 21. Now, if you've changed the blender, it's going to take time before that reads, so there should be an alarm. Once you hear that alarm, go back and reset your blender to 21% or whatever percentage you desire. Everything has been done to prepare this ventilator for ventilating a patient. It's attached to the correct power sources, the circuit is on correctly, the alarms have been revised and set as we want them and tested, the settings have been done. So it's now time to put our patient on. We're going to simulate a patient with this test lung, and from this page, we're going to access menu and simply start PCV. It's going to ask me to confirm, which I will. I'm going to attach my patient. And the first thing to do is to confirm that my patient is actually receiving the ventilation that I want. Looking at the pressure over time waveform, and it takes several seconds before it's able to steady state. I can see that we're being ventilated. The volume over time is showing inspiration and expiration, that's fine. And the flow over time is showing that there is flow on inspiration, and we have an expiratory flow as well. There may be some outstanding alarms that need to be reset, just the switch over between on and off in essence. And again, our patient now is being very well ventilated. Along with this, of course, clinical parameters that you would be doing, and this patient would have to be monitored on a continual basis. If I want to change the mode, I don't have to remove the patient and start all over again. If I want to go from pressure control to pressure support, I simply check my parameters. So it's telling me that I need to make sure that I want to go into pressure support. I'm going to confirm with yes. I am now in pressure support ventilation. If I want to switch back, again, confirm. I'm now back in pressure control ventilation. This is the conclusion of the videos on the MVM. In addition to these videos, it is highly recommended to review all the material in the user manual prior to ventilating a patient with the MVM.